type is the most powerful craft afloat. And the tugboats are the power behind the docks and waterways to make up the harbors and ports. This is I Love Tugboats. Many tugboats come in various shapes, sizes, and pulling power, and a lot of them can do different jobs around the port or harbor. Let me show you some examples. Pay attention now, we have a pop quiz at the end of the video. The tugboats that you see in the harbor every day is called a harbor tugboat. They can do two things. They haul ships that come in and out of the harbor, and they push and pull barges filled with supplies from dock to dock. The larger tugboats are called ocean-going tugboats. These tugboats can do more than just pulling or pushing. They can go anywhere across the ocean to many different places. And they could also handle some inclement weather along their journeys, hence why they're called, aptly named, ocean-going tugboats. The smaller tugboats from inland waters were called river tugboats, also known as towboats or push boats. The designs of the tugboats can be put into danger if they're out on the ocean, and they're exclusively used to push barges with their bows onto the river. Usually they push the barge with the vertical steel beams attached to the bows called push knees. A notch tug or integral unit has both the tugboat and barge coupled together, and they can both work together as a single entity. There are also tractor tugboats.
Hear that sound, John Proctor, round and round, John Proctor. When you hear that sound coming through your town, the answer is...
Not those kind of tractors, but there is a tractor tugboat on the water, or a traction tugboat as some people may call it. A traction tugboat refers to the propulsion that a tugboat can carry, and because of their large thick bows, they're less likely to be capsized than normal tugboats, which is a good thing for them because it protects the crew on the boat from danger. These tugboats are getting ready to bring in an ocean liner into the harbor so it can be docked up for the night. The ocean liner arrives into the harbor and reports to the harbor master that they're about to enter. Then the tugboats all pull up around the big ship to secure their tow ropes. And start hauling the big ship in. Next, as they arrive at the dock, the tugboats maneuver the big ship around so they can put it into place. They're gonna park the big ship beside the dock. Steady now. Finally, their work here is done. The ship is now tied up to the dock. Great job, everyone. Dredging is where a crane excavates soil like dirt or sand from the seabed to let other boats pass by so they won't get stuck. The crane uses a big bucket to dip it into the water, scoops out some of the soil laying at the bottom, and then drops them into the barge. To some people, dredging can be a nasty job, and it can give off that smelly stench that made them want to cover their noses. I guess you could say that job is dredgeful. Barges were used to carry freight from one side of the harbor to another. There are many different types of barges. Barges that were filled with many things including stone, timber, oil, steel structures, coal, pipes, and even garbage. Crane barges were used for heavy marine construction to lift heavy loads of things, and they were used for underwater research to lift things deep in the water. They can also lift up submarines who were broken down.
Breaker, this is Papa with a quarry train calling Big Mickey. I'm heading east to the foundation site with 5 L&B open wagons filled with stone. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Plus a New York Central caboose at the end. Are the points switched to the right? And do I have the all clear? Over. This is Big Mickey calling Papa. You're all clear to go. The points are switched right to head eastbound for the foundation site. Give me the blast of 2 whistles if you read me. Over.
This is a demolition site, where both the Star Tugs and Z Stacks were rebuilding the old docks by the quayside. They use a crane barge to tear down the dilapidated buildings and infrastructure so they can have it prepared for a rebuild. One day, Warrior is doing the rock contract. He is standing by the quarry waiting for his barge to be loaded. The quarry rocks are for the foundations needed to be laid in to have new buildings to be constructed. Think of the rock foundations as like a seed to grow plants from the ground. As soon as his barge was all loaded up, he set off his journey to the old docks. He has to be careful not to be in a hurry, otherwise his barge will bump right behind him if he stops short. Along the way, he had met other boats, like the shrimpers stripping out in the ocean. Izzy Gomez is sleeping by the entrance at Big City Port, who is desperately waiting for a tow. He might come into the harbor by himself if he had lost patience for one. Next, Warrior met Sunshine, Pearl, and Little Ditcher dredging the seabed. He has to watch his barge, otherwise it'll bump into Little Ditcher as he's spinning around on the water. As the quarry rocks were delivered to the old docks, the Coast Guard directs the tugboat to where the barge should be parked at, so the lot can be used for doing some rock foundations.
Boom, ain't it great to be crazy? Boom, boom, ain't it great to be nuts? Giddy and foolish all the day long. Boom, boom, ain't it great to be crazy? Oh no!
Handling containers at ports and harbors were a key part of the freight industry. This ship is getting some of its cargo unloaded onto the pier. The ship is called a container ship. It was capable of handling over 5,000 containers into a massive storage space that stretched end to end of the hull. This big and tall crane unloading the cargo is called a container crane or gantry crane. Its job is to unload cargo off of the ship and stack them onto the quay. This part of the crane is called a spreader. It lowers onto the container, locks it up into four corners, and lifts the container out of the ship. This other part of the crane is called a trolley. It rolls horizontally along the arm of the crane called a boom, so it can move the container around and load it onto a flatbed truck, or set the containers along the quay so a forklift truck can come pick them up. A forklift truck loads the containers onto the flatbeds, and the trucks set out with their special deliveries of freight across place to place. The containers can carry various types of freight like food, tools, clothes, and many other things. It can even carry some toy trains in there too. The track helps the container crane to roll side to side to move onto other ships or stack the containers somewhere else. After all the containers were unloaded, the crane loads the other stack of containers onto the other ship. so it will be set off for their special delivery to another harbor.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. Oh, bring back my Bonnie to me. Bring back, bring back, bring back my Bonnie to me, to me. Bring back, oh, bring back my Bonnie to me.
Big Mickey!
Boom, boom, and it's great to be crazy. Boom, boom, and it's great to be nuts. Giddy and foolish all the day long. Boom, boom, and it's great to be crazy.
Big Mickey is Big City Ports' main harbor crane. His job is to load and unload goods from barges or ships so they can be carried by trucks or trains to American towns, as well as having their tugboats carrying their barge loads to many ports or harbors around Big City. It was always a busy job, and there is a lot of bustling going around the harbor both night and day.
This is Little Owl calling the control tower. I had a freight train ready to depart soon. Let me know if I have the all clear. Over. This is the control tower to Little Owl. Stand by for the passenger train headed by Puffa. It will be on its way in about 5 minutes past the junction. Over. Okie dokie. I'll be sitting here in the siding while I wait. This is the control tower to Little Owl. The passenger train has just passed by. You're all clear to proceed. Thank you, sir, and I'll be on my way. And see you next time. Over and out.
Okay, now it's time for the test. When the video stops, you name the tugboat.
Ocean-going tugboats. Harbor tugboats. Not tugs. Tractor tugboats. River tugboats.
Very good.
Boom, and it's great to be crazy. Boom, boom, and it's great to be nuts. Giddy and foolish all the day long. Boom, boom, ain't it great to be crazy?
Oh no!
We all know that tugboats do their jobs of towing barges and escorting ships in and out of ports. They were one of the most important vessels in the boating and shipping industry. But some of you probably been wondering how a tugboat got its name and where it originated from. Well, it happened like this. There are many attempts at making a tugboat throughout the years, so bear with me as we go through the long history about the tugboat. A long time ago, before the Industrial Revolution, people used to sail on those big sailing ships called galleons that could carry both people and goods from place to place far and wide across many seas. The wind blowing through the sails propels the galleon forward along with a wheel or helm that helps turn the ship around in any direction where it was going. However, the galleons were extremely difficult to control and maneuver, especially whenever they arrive at port or at the beach. They'll either crash straight into the dock or run aground at fast speed. So that's why sailors have to anchor up their galleons to prevent this accident from happening, so they can bring both people and goods to shore by transporting them onto little rowboats or sailboats, both called gigs and cutters respectively. During the turn of the century, steam-powered tugboats were invented. The first tugboat ever to be built is the Charlotte Dundas. It measured 65 feet long, 16 feet wide, and 8 feet deep. It was named after the Lord Dundas's daughter, Charlotte Dundas herself. But back then, the name tugboat hadn't even been made up yet, so in those days, they just call it a towboat. Built in 1801 by Scottish engineer William Symington, the Charlotte Dundas is built with a high-pressure horizontal steam engine that is covered by a wooden hull around it. The horizontal steam engine is this little contraption that has the crank connected to the paddle and then the paddle connected to the engine. The engine pumps the steam as it pistons both the crank and paddle, which they go round and round as it operates the towboat. In 1803, after her year-and-a-half trial, the Charlotte Dundas was officially put into service. In this picture, she was doing her demonstration by hauling 2 barges weighing at 70 tons. Even though that the mighty breeze had stopped all the canal boats from going, this little steam-powered tugboat proved herself to be a very reliable vessel by powering through weather conditions, as she reached up a speed of 3 kilometers per hour. However, in 1816, the Charlotte Dundas was scrapped and other projects for building more steam-powered low towboats were cancelled due to fears of corroding the canal banks. Overall, the little vessel helped usher in a new era of boats for what they will become steam-powered, replacing the old burdensome sailing boats that the crew once had for their voyages and journeys. During the Napoleonic Wars, another inventor named Richard Trevithick from England came along. He was famously known as one of the pioneers for steam-powered machines. So if he thought he could invent machines for rail transport, then surely he can invent some machines for water transport too. In 1808, Richard Trevithick built the Nautical Laborer, which is one of the first of the kind steam-powered watercraft. Unfortunately, it did not live up to the safety standards of the fire regulations at the docks, and the Society of Coal Whippers had banned the Nautical Laborer that Richard Trevithick had built, because they were worried that that machine will kill many people's lives. But then Trevithick had other ideas. He wanted a towboat that could be more than just to pump steam. It could also carry cargo or fight fire by squirting water out of a hose, or anything else that would make a towboat unique. But alas, those plans had been dropped and they never came to fruition. Until later on. But then in 1814, some vessel called the Tyne Steamboat was built up in Newcastle. It can carry people along the River Tyne for passenger service. However, the service was only short-lived, and it only lasted for about 2 years due to poor ticket sales. So then the boat was put up for sale. But then luckily, an entrepreneur named Joseph Price bought out the Tyne Steamboat. He then converted it into a towboat, and then renamed the Tyne Steamboat to Perseverance. The conversion had worked. And for the first time, people had seen a sailing ship getting towed by a steamboat on the river. This was a picture of Perseverance pulling a brig up on the River Tyne to Newcastle. Perseverance had proved to be so successful as a towboat that 14 more had been built within 3 years. Soon, the idea of a more powerful tugboat spread around Britain in the following years. In 1816, a steamboat called the Majestic in London, England, towed the East Indian sailing ship 5 miles from Woolwich to Deptford. Then in Liverpool, another steamboat called Charlotte towed a sailing ship called Harlequin down along the River Mersey. And then the following year in 1817, in a yard located in Dumbarton, Scotland, another steamboat had been built called Tug. This steamboat can carry many ships along the Firth of Forth from Leith to Grangemouth. Soon, the name Tug had become widespread around Britain and Europe, and this is where that the name tugboat had been coined. Throughout the 19th century, sailing ships as big as 400 tons come into the harbors from their voyages and journeys, and they were towed by the chuffing and puffing steam-powered tugboats so that they can be easily moored up to dock, quay, or pier. Now sailing ships don't need to anchor close to shore anymore before coming in, nor would they be towed by their own little rowboats to make their crew members hurt their backs. It'll be just the tugboats that'll do their job on guiding them. Most tugboats at the time were built out of wood, but then in 1841, the first iron tugboat named Defiance was built. It was a little larger than the wooden tugboats. It had measured 112 feet long, and it had served at the J. Tyre towing fleet that is based in Liverpool, England in 1853. During the second half of the 19th century, propellers began to replace paddles because propellers had stronger propulsion and provide more efficiency to operate the tugboat as it can easily turn around. While paddles were nice for calmer waters such as rivers or bays, they weren't as palatable for open oceans, especially when the oceans can be a little choppy. That's why the propeller helps run the tugboat safely wherever it goes. Although paddles were replaced by propellers over time, there are some boats that are still being built with them up until the early 20th century, like the Appleton Hall, one of the last remaining paddle steamers being built in 1914, and it was currently preserved by the San Francisco Maritime Historical National Park in San Francisco, California. Today, most of the tugboats were built out of iron steel and they're powered by diesel fuel. They became even bigger, stronger, and more powerful than ever before from the last 100 years. And many of them had more equipment around them for their operations, like their satellites.
As the paddles on the steamer go round and round, round and round, round and round. As the paddles on the steamer go round and round, they make a splashing sound. Splash,
Really, look at John. He sure loves to drive that old cat dozer and show off in front of us.
Oh, he's just having fun, George. But I hope they let him load the circus wagons so we can get some sleep.
Tugboats were sure fun and nice to watch, but always remember, they can be dangerous too. You can look at a tugboat or watch it float along the water, but never climb and play with any tugboat big or small, unless of course if you had an expert nearby who do know what they're doing. Thanks for watching. See you in I Love Tugboats number 2.